Welcome to Conejo Valley Visionaries, a weekly podcast spotlighting the people and stories behind your favorite Conejo Valley businesses. I'm your host, Christina Denstead. In today's episode, you'll meet Giana and Antonio, the charming couple and owners behind Made in Italy Bistro in Thousand Oaks. Get ready for a heartfelt conversation about authenticity, customer connection, and the joys and challenges of entrepreneurship in the culinary world. They reflect on their relationship, the vital role of community, and how the pandemic reshaped their business. We also discuss their focus and commitment to delivering a true Italian dining experience. Before we dive into this conversation, I want to remind you, if you love supporting local businesses, please share this episode with a friend. Spreading the word is a powerful way to help our community thrive. Now, please enjoy this conversation with Giana and Antonio of Made in Italy Bistro. Today's episode is brought to you by ConejoValleyGiftGuide.com. Shop small, shop local, shop Conejo Valley this holiday season. Visit ConejoValleyGiftGuide.com to find something for everybody on your list, as well as exclusive offers from some of your favorite Conejo Valley businesses. Visit ConejoValleyGiftGuide.com and shop Conejo Valley this holiday season. Happy holidays. Hi, Giana and Antonio. Thank you so much for joining me on Conejo Valley Visionaries.
Of course. Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
It is my pleasure. I am so excited to talk to you. I know you just celebrated 5 years here in the Conejo Valley, and a lot of our followers on Instagram suggested that they wanted to hear your story. So thank you for making the time from your busy schedule, and excited to dive in. So as we always like to do here on the podcast, we want to start at the beginning. What did you want to be when you grew up, or what did you study in school?
Okay. You want to go
Can I
first?
start first? Sure.
Okay.
Actually, when I started culinary school in Italy, we start age of 14. At that time, I really didn't know what I was doing. Actually, my parents pushed me towards that because it was always something that, you have a job. Growing up on old school Italian mentality, you always wanted to find a job, after school. So they suggested me and going to culinary school, as I said, at the age of 14. And, you do that for 5 years and you start working very early, right after the first year of culinary school. And so that's my, early stage of start working. Actually, it worked out pretty good. I have to thank my parents as well.
Yes, that's impressive. And I feel like usually I hear from chefs who say their parents didn't want them to go into culinary school. So it's almost unusual that they were encouraging of it.
I grew up in a very small town in southern Italy, where there was not really a lot of opportunity. And, food has always been big in the Italian family. And, we always cooked at home. With my grandmother, my grandparents, this famous Sunday meal that everybody knows is actually still happening in Italy. So that's why they encouraged me and it worked pretty well, to be honest.
I love that. Fantastic. What about you, Giana?
I always knew at a young age that I wanted to be a chef. I would watch the Food Network and I was obsessed with Giada. I don't know if it's because it was close to my name, so I felt connected to her. But I would just make things at home and pretend that I was like at a restaurant. I'd take people's order and then cook it at my house. And so I knew at a young age that I wanted to maybe have a restaurant, be a chef. I don't know. I just knew I wanted to be in food. Mm-hmm. And my parents, when I graduated high school, didn't want me to go to culinary school because they said, restaurant life is very hard. We've heard about it. Maybe you should go to community college first, figure out what you want to do. And then if you really want to do culinary school, you can transfer to culinary school. So I said, okay, listen to my parents. And then about 6 months into community college, I was like, no, this is not what I want to do with my life. I want to be in food. So I went to culinary school and then it's just blossomed into what it is now.
That is incredible that both of you had, from such an early age, this knowledge that this is where you wanted to be. That's very impressive. Did you also grow up in Italy, or where were you growing up?
I did not. No, okay. I grew up in La Crescenta in California.
Okay.
My grandparents are from Italy, and on my dad's side. And my dad has always cooked, so it was like a young memory that I always had with him cooking with my dad, and I think maybe that's what grew me to love to cook.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what when you were in culinary school, I guess for both of you, and it sounds like they're probably going to be different experiences, where you focus on learning Italian cuisine, or was it more broad strokes, kind of foundational
Actually,
cooking?
when I started culinary school in Italy, the first 3 years of culinary school, you do everything. You do all the subject. Um, you do kitchen. You do service. You do receptionist, as we called.
Okay.
So you actually do everything, and it's pretty strict. When I started, it was only based to Italian. When I was growing up, the only thing they will teach you it's Italian food. Until I met Giana, I never been to messing a restaurant on sushi. It was very, even the professor, they were only teaching, Italian food, basically from your own region, unless after school, you leave and you learn, other cuisine, but
That's
yeah.
incredible. So you were learning very regional Italian
Yes,
cooking.
mostly regional. A little bit of everything in Italy, but mostly it's focused on Italian food.
Okay.
Yeah, but we never learned any, which is something that I would regret these days because it would be nice to. I think right now they do something. They integrate more cuisine in the culinary school. I'm not familiar with that, so I cannot really confirm 100%.
Yeah.
But definitely, when I grow up, it was just limited. From let's say the Italian food, limited to our region.
Okay.
Yeah.
But also learning some of the kind of like restaurant management stuff, it sounds
Yes,
like too.
for sure. Yeah,
Okay.
restaurant management. Yes.
Okay. And what about you, Gianna?
I went to the Cordon Bleu, so the fundamentals were French, like all the French techniques. But then they make you take classes where you learn Japanese, all different cuisines. But yeah, for the most part, it was French.
I see. Okay. So then let's say you both graduate school, you're in different parts of the world. What happens next?
I as when you're in culinary school, you always wanted to explore, more and more and more other than your own town. I told my parents that, after I was working in my hometown, hotels, restaurants, I told them I was going to Florence, and they were like, "What? Where are you going?" It's only 4.5 hours, away from my own, but I was like, in a different country.
Sure.
It was pretty. Actually, the first time that I told them I was going to Florence, my dad said, "No, where are you going? Why? Your family's here, And I said, "Okay, let's stay." But then the opportunity came again, and I was very, decided as I'm leaving. I'm going to, Florence.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, "Okay, And so I moved. I was the first time that I went there. I was like 17 for like a summer work, and then after I finished school, I moved actually to Florence at the age I think was 18. But it was a big deal for my family, huge.
Yes, I bet. And did you move there because you preferred or you wanted to learn the cuisine there? Or was there a restaurant or a hotel in particular you were moving towards?
Honestly, I one of the main reasons they were paying a little bit more, in Florence. That was one of the main reasons. And then, I started learning. I didn't know anything about the Toscan cuisine. Never learned anything in culinary school. You heard about it, and so that's what I, started to be very interesting in that. And I spent almost 8 years in Florence.
Great. What about you? What was your first job out of culinary school, Gianna?
So in order to graduate my culinary school, you had to do an externship at a restaurant, or if you wanted to get into catering, you had to find your own job, like in a catering business, at a restaurant, whatever you wanted to do after you graduated. And I wanted to work in a restaurant after I graduated. So I got my externship at a restaurant called Firenze Osteria. It was in, oh my gosh, North Hollywood. And it was Fabio Viviani's restaurant from Top Chef. And I worked my way up there, and after my externship, after I graduated culinary school, they offered me a job there. And so I worked there, and they also had a restaurant in Moore Park called Cafe Firenze. So I was working at both of those restaurants. And then eventually I moved full-time to Cafe Firenze in Moore Park, which led me to meeting him, which we haven't gotten to him moving to America yet.
Yes.
But that was my first job out of culinary school. It was an Italian restaurant.
Got it. And that was your kind of first foray into this part of California then, moving to Moore Park.
Yes,
okay,
yes.
great.
That's how I moved over to Conejo Valley.
Yeah. And then, okay, so yeah, Antonio, how does this happen? You're in Florence for 8 years.
I was for 8 years. I actually, started working also as a server in front of the house, and I was working this little trattoria in Florence, where I always wanted to learn more and more inside the restaurant. I wanted to learn every single aspect, from the house, back of the house, and I told the owner that I wanted to start working in the kitchen. And she looked at me and said, why, And she said, I'm very interested to learn, food from Tuscany. She said, okay, and actually in my day off, I started working in the kitchen. And I started, believe it or not, mostly cleaning, because the lady said, if you want to start, learn how to cook, you got to start learning how to clean. So I started cleaning, most of the time watching. In Italy, nobody teaches you anything, at least when I grew up. Mm-hmm. You had to learn as, with your own eyes. There was no recipe. Even in the family, that's how old school Italian, the way they teach. So I had to, learn with my eyes, and spend a lot of time. And so that's how I started, this passion inside with the food in the kitchen. And then I told my parents, hey, I think I'm done here in Florence. I want to move. Can you imagine? I told my parents.
I know, and actually a lot further away.
Yeah. And he lives in a very small town. Okay. Where driving 30 minutes is a big deal to them.
Yeah.
So
what is the name of the town?
The name of the town is Battipaglia. It's a province of Salerno. The main town is Salerno. It's an hour south of Naples. Okay. Just to get more familiar. Yeah, but I told them I was going to move to America. I wanted to learn English because I think in culinary world, especially in Italy, if you know a second language, it's easy to find job everywhere. So my goal was to come to America, learn English, eventually going back and find a better job. Mm-hmm. Not that I didn't like what I was doing, but you can always do better.
Sure.
My parents said, my gosh, you're crazy, where you're going, you don't know where you're going, but the rest is history. Yeah.
Where did you move to then? Was it directly to California?
No, it was direct to California. The first time I went to San Diego. I spent a few months in San Diego with a family, host family. Was going to just taking English classes there.
And you met all these people at the restaurant that you worked at in Florence.
I made this connection in Florence with this. With this, while I was working, and we became close friends. And they said, if you ever want to come to California, we can always, host you a little bit. Sure, no problem. So that's why I
the Italian way.
Yeah,
I know, what a relationship builder, and so smart. Yeah. I mean, that's bold, and at least it gave you some kind of personal connection, making such a big move.
For sure. But, coming here without knowing any English, people will ask me, "Hey, how are you?" And I will say, "My name is Antonio." So zero, no, I didn't know anything about English, so I had to learn from, day one. And the beginning was very tough, to be honest. Coming from Italy, and you immerse yourself in English school. It was tough, but I think that was the best way to learn, because after a few months, I could start communicating with people. Then after San Diego, I moved, believe it or not, to Fresno, because I had another friend there. I took this 5 months of intensive English classes, which it was an amazing program. 5 days a week. I think it was 6 hours a day on speaking, listening, pronunciation. That was very intense.
Wow.
And I focused on, just learning English there. I worked as a busboy just to practice my English in some Italian restaurant there. And after, Fresno, I moved to Thousand Oaks. I found a little school here in Thousand Oaks, only English. And then after, I think 5-6 months, or maybe a year, I had to decide if I had to go back to Italy or stay here because my visa was expiring. And, if you're no student or, it's very hard to get a visa. I said, you know what, I'm going to try to sign up into college so I can keep my visa. If I don't pass the test, I move back. So I took this test at Moore Park College. I passed it. I didn't know what I was doing, to be honest. There was no what I wanted to do. But, the great way to be here legally was to study, go to school. So I started the program in Moore Park College. They didn't have a culinary school. I didn't want to do the culinary program. And so I signed up for a science degree. Learning about nutrition, more about nutrition classes and stuff.
Okay.
And it kept me here, so. And after Moore Park College, after 2 years, I graduated. The same thing happened. What I do, I go back to Italy. So I start looking for scholarship because I know university can be very expensive in America. And I got this great scholarship at CLU, like a full scholarship for my GPA, and great school, great opportunity. I met a lot of friends there, and so I was able to stay here for at least 4 or 5 years. And while I was in school, I wanted to learn a little bit about restaurants in America because it's very different. A restaurant in America, a clientele in America, customer service in America is different than in Italy. So I started working in a restaurant as a busboy, as a server, because that's where you make money here at least. And so I learned a lot, actually. I learned a lot in front of the house. I learned a lot what the people needed here. And while I was working in the restaurant, I was doing also private chef. I worked for, a few people in Beverly Hills. I was cooking at private people home. I became a private chef for Ryan Seacrest, some of his friends.
That must have been interesting.
Yeah,
good story from there.
I had a great. I was lucky, to meet these people and be inside their house, cooking for them, their friends. I cook for some of my, I don't know, how can I say, dream people. One was Jennifer Lopez. She's still on my WhatsApp picture, and my wife is yelling me all the time.
So how did those connections come to be? And then I want to understand when you two met, but how are you connecting with all these celebrity chef
to be honest, it only started when I moved to Florence. I met a lot of people in this restaurant, and one of our customers was the owner of Guess Jeans.
Sure.
And so when I moved to America and I started doing a private chef, this opportunity came up to cook for him, and thanks to him, he introduced me, a lot of, his friends, and one was Ryan Seacrest, and this all started from there.
That's pretty incredible. I love that. So that first move to Florence really helped jumpstart.
Yes.
Sounds like the rest of your career. At what point did you two meet then?
So when I moved to the restaurant in Moore Park, That's the restaurant that Antonio was working at. However, when I got moved there, he wasn't working there anymore. That's when he became a private chef.
Okay.
But he was very good friends with a lot of the owners there still, with a lot of people that work there. So he would come in a lot. And a lot of times they had like a big upstairs area where they like kept all the catering stuff. And I would always do inventory up there. And Antonio would come in, since he was a private chef, and borrow a bunch of our catering equipment. So he'd be up there like getting all his stuff while I'm doing inventory. And I always thought that he was cute. He always came in his like Italian tracksuits, always the same thing.
I like that visual.
So I just knew him from coming in all the time because he was friends with the owners. And when I was working there, you had to wear like your chef hat, your chef coat, never wore makeup in the kitchen because you're sweating it off anyways. So I looked a little different when I was working in the kitchen. One day,
very different.
One day he came up on my People You Know on Facebook, and I added him. He messaged me and he was like, "Ciao, Gianna. I see you work at Cafe Firenze, but we don't have, I
never seen you."
Yeah, he's like, "I never seen you, but I see we have something in common since you work there." And then I was so embarrassed. I was like, "Antonio, it's Gianna, the girl that works in the kitchen. Like, I talk to you all the time." And he literally replied back, "Oh, sorry, I didn't recognize you not in your chef outfit."
True story.
Yeah, true story.
That's
so
amazing.
Yeah, nothing really came out of that. Sometimes he would like write on my pictures like, "Oh, you went to Hollywood tonight and didn't invite me." And then, back then I was kind of like, I didn't brush it off. And then there was one summer in particular, my sister used to live in Italy. And so I was going to Italy that summer. And that summer he was writing on my Instagram photos a lot. So I kind of knew that maybe he was starting to become
That was
interested.
his way of showing you.
Yes. And I posted a picture on my birthday and he was like, "Auguri," which is like wishes from Italy. And I replied back to him saying, "Oh, I'm going to be in Italy next week." He was like, "No way, write to me on Facebook." We didn't meet when we were in Italy because I was in the north and he was in the south. But he was telling me like places to go and visit while I was in Florence. And then he said to me, "Write to me when you get back from Italy," because then he came back to America before I did.
She wrote me 3 days before. So.
No, but I did write to him right the day.
I love this.
I did write to him the day I got back. We had our first date, and then we've been together ever since. Now 9 years.
That's pretty incredible. And so it's funny that it was like a digital first relationship, even though you both had like lived in the same area, had this personal connection, and that brought you together.
Yes.
So how soon then after you all met did you decide to, I guess pretty quickly because you just celebrated 5 years. When did you decide to start and open the restaurant?
While I was, living in Thousand Oaks, I lived with this family that like I said, that I met in Florence. And, after I graduated, the guy that I was living with said, "What do you want to do? You want to start your own business?" He's kind of a business and life coach. I said, "Sure, I would love that." And so he became my investors, and we started looking locations, in Thousand Oaks. And we decided, I love this area. I love the community. It's a very small community. It reminds me of Italy. Everybody knows each other, honestly. And I think I needed some authenticity, which, that's what we decided to do. Open a true, authentic Italian in this area. And, we started looking for locations. We looked in a lot of places. And, this place came up where we are now in Westlake Village. And so we decided to open the first restaurant.
Yeah. And I had a dream of working in Italy before we opened this restaurant. And so he sent me to the restaurant that he worked at. I worked there for a summer, and I think that was like the ultimate test. If Gianna can work in this kitchen, then she can definitely open a restaurant.
Being in culinary school, because I was telling her what was my culinary school in Italy, and she was like,
completely different than
wow,
mine.
It sounds like it.
Completely different. It's like very intense program. 5 years, you study everything. And so I wanted, her to experience a little bit the Italian food, Italian kitchen, especially, this restaurant that I worked in Florence, very small restaurant, family owned,
everything
very
from
authentic.
Scratch. Literally, you make everything in the morning of.
Yeah.
Everything. And it was
so
amazing.
For someone coming from America and being, seeing another, culture and embrace the food there and the way they run the restaurant, I think, was a great experience for her. At least I wanted to really her to understand what I meant about, giving experience to people. It's not just about the food, it's about, the way we welcome people, the way we treat people, the way we treat the food, the way we care about it, the food. So a little bit of everything. Because in America, it's pretty, standardized. Everything it's written. Everything, okay, I need to do this, and that. In Italy, it's you call the butcher, say, hey, what do you have today? Okay, bring this. It's very different.
Yeah. No,
People
good.
love that.
You both had that side of the experience. And obviously it sounds like the restaurant in Florence, when you were there, had made such an impact so that you were able to experience that too and have it sounds like it was a place in which relationships were really important and that you were able to like there. With when you went to open Made in Italy Bistro, did you decide to have it be like, what was your hope? Did you have a business plan? Did you have an idea? Like, what was your original idea for the space? And I guess 5 years later, do you feel like it's
we had a business idea, we had a business plan, completely different, to be honest.
We did have the mindset that we really wanted it to be where when people walked in, it was like they were walking into our home. So that's why we have the communal table, the closed tables next to each other. People are sharing food because strangers are sharing dessert calzones with the other table next to them. And that's what we really wanted, that whole vibey, homey feeling. So I think we did master that. But our original plan, yes, was totally different. We were going to be like more of like a grab and go, order at the counter, quick service restaurant.
Yeah.
And it quickly changed.
We did the soft opening. We had 2 display cases where we display all the food. When people can come in and say, hey, I want a place, I want to place an order of lasagna, eggplant, blah, 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 blah. Then we turn it over. I said, this is not going to work.
Yeah.
It was.
Why? What was the? How did you figure that out?
I think because we were serving such high quality food that people weren't wanting it that way. They wanted to sit down and dine and really enjoy the experience. They didn't want to order at the counter. They didn't want. We thought that a grab and go. Because a lot of places that we do research, we look at like Justa in LA, and we're like, we really want to be like that. Yeah. And we thought people here would like that too, but I feel like more people didn't really understand the concept, so it just didn't really. Also, on the
business perspective, we try to limit a little bit number of employees. It can be very expensive. Big payroll. First restaurant. You don't know if you're gonna succeed because after 6 months, sometimes restaurant most of the time they go out of business. So it's we were trying to figure out what was the best formula for us, and so that's why we started the counter service, and then we were doing pretty well. People, but we were hearing feedback. You have such a great food. Why I need to order the counter? Mm-hmm. So and. To be honest, one of the things of the good thing about COVID, you couldn't be in line anymore, 6 feet apart. People, we were forming a line inside the restaurant, so we had to change that.
And it actually changed for the better.
Yeah.
So,
like you had already had that in your mind from customer feedback that you wanted to maybe adjust, yes. And then because of the restrictions that COVID imposed, you kind of almost had to pivot into the different business model.
Yes.
Exactly. We celebrated our first birthday, and then I think about 4 days later is when they shut everything down.
Oh my goodness.
So
What a time.
So then once they reopened us, we were doing takeout. And then once they reopened us, we said, okay, maybe we stop the ordering at the counter and we do full service. And we haven't looked back since. Yeah.
I remember that's, I think, when I first discovered you and you had the outdoor, it's like maybe when you first opened the outdoor seating out there and it was like,
yeah, we built the patio.
Yeah, that was great.
Yes.
So, I mean, I imagine, you know, I'm curious about like what has been your biggest challenge. I can guess first year in, going into a COVID situation was probably challenging, but what would you say has been the biggest challenge since opening and running the business?
After 5 years?
Yeah.
Biggest challenge, I mean, honestly, I would say finding amazing employees, which I think right now we are in a great spot. But you know, it took us a while, especially in the kitchen, find people that really care.
That showed up to work.
They showed up to work. I mean, I think in the first year,
I mean, Antonio and I were running that line constantly. Like we just thought like we would never see the light of day, honestly. Because we could not, in the kitchen, like we could not find people that were reliable, that weren't texting us in the morning, oh, sorry, not coming into work today.
Well, sometimes they didn't show up to work most of the time.
Yeah.
You know, it was always something. I mean,
but now, knock on wood, we have a really strong crew. That, and I'd also say when we first started, a lot of people, especially friends because we have a lot of friends in the restaurant industry, would look at our menu and say, oh, you don't have fettuccine alfredo on your menu, you don't have chicken parmesan, you guys are not going to do well. That's what people want in this area. They're not going to come to you because of it. People are going to complain all the time. And we said, look, we are who we are. We're not going to serve these things. We're going to serve true, authentic Italian, and we're going to serve what we want to serve. And if they don't want that, they can go across the street that serves it, you know? And
I remember the first review on Yelp.
Was that,
Was what kind of Italian, I think it's still there. What kind of Italian restaurants they open, they don't serve eggplant parmigiana with spaghetti. I honestly called my mom in Italy. I said, you won't believe this. You know, one of the first review we got, you know, it's, you know, I took that stuff very personal because, you know, coming from Italy and bringing authenticity and really reading these things, like, I mean, and then I realized I think people need to be educated, especially people that never been to, you know, Italy, to my country, and you know, that's where we started doing a better job on educating people of who we really are and what we bring it to, you know, to the table.
But how bold of you to stick with that and be authentic to yourselves. Did it take a while? I mean, I imagine seeing Yelp reviews like that, like to build that confidence, or, you know, at what point do you just say, you know what, we're just going to keep on going with this? Because I imagine if everybody's in your ear, that's an easy thing to...
I mean, it still happens, you know, once in a while, you know.
But luckily, like, we train our staff as well. And so our staff, they know how to handle it. It used to be when we first opened, people would be like, oh my gosh, this person's yelling at me because I don't have this. What do I say? And now everyone's just, they know what to say, and they know how to politely tell people, you know, that's not what we serve here. And they upsell what we do serve, and most of the time people are okay with it. Now there are some people that
they appreciate
that will actually leave because they look at the menu and they say, oh, you don't have this, I'm leaving. You know, that's okay though, you know,
it's not
that's
for them.
fine.
Do you think that there, in the 5 years, as somebody who like moved here from LA, me personally, like, have you seen, and I think there was a shift in that probably during COVID and continuing to kind of evolve here, like a shift in sensibilities, if you will, like are more people more open to an authentic Italian restaurant than when you first opened, and kind of understand, like, it's actually pretty incredible that you've got true Italians here serving you like authentic food.
For sure.
For sure, you know, and I think people appreciate it more and more that we are in that way. Especially people that are foodie, people that, you know, love Italian food,
that love good quality ingredients. They can taste the difference. Also, after COVID, a lot of people from LA moved over here.
Yeah.
And so many people would say, I'm from Beverly Hills. How do you have this good of food for this price? Because a lot of people would complain that we have high prices for handmade pasta and farmers market produce, and they're saying, how do you serve this for the price that you serve it as well? And they're very appreciative. They're like, go open in LA, please.
Yeah, isn't it funny? It's all about like context and what you've been exposed to in a lot of ways.
Yes.
What are you most proud of?
Ooh, that's a great question.
I think I'm the most proud of creating a true Italian experience with the food and customer service. People when they walk inside our place, they feel like they are in Italy. They feel like it's the feeling that is inside our place is very homey. Hole in the wall. Family. And when I hear these things, and it makes me very proud. I think we've done an amazing job. We have to keep working hard, I think. But when I go to people's house and we do a lot of catering too, they said, "Oh my gosh, you are the true, authentic Italian." When I hear these words, like it makes me, accomplish, very happy.
I think when customers tell us that we need a bigger location, and it happens all the time, that makes me feel really proud, because that means that people want to get in and they want to get seated and they want it to be here a lot. And I don't know, that makes me proud, because that means people are saying, okay, you need a bigger location because you're popular and a lot of people are coming here. So I think that makes me really happy.
Well, that sort of leads into my next question is, what's your vision for the business? Is a larger space in the cards, or are you, just
I mean,
hole in the wall?
no line, but we've been looking to expand a little bit. There is an opportunity that it just came up a couple of weeks ago. We're talking about with how to expand with the landlord. But restaurants, you need to be careful. So it all depends if if it's worth it. Expand. It depends all about rent. All this stuff. So sometimes expanding. It's you need to be smart how to expand. You don't want to just go
big, because then people will
start paying higher rent. More employees, more cost, and then you don't want to fail. Let's say that.
Yeah, that makes
so
sense.
We've been looking to expand a little bit, creating a little bit bigger place, but not too big, because I like to keep the warm environment that we have now.
Yeah.
But
also a space with maybe like a private dining room and also a bar would be very exciting.
Yeah.
So
can you imagine like saying like within the space, like is it important to you that you are in the restaurant? I don't know how frequently, is it every night, or you obviously have a child too, but like, is that an important part of what you think makes the restaurant special?
Definitely.
For sure, yes. Yeah.
Antonio is there 6 days a week still, but all day long, afternoons and nights. I'm not there at nights now just because the baby goes to bed earlier, but I try to be there during the day, during the weekdays. But, now that he's started walking too, then it's a little bit harder because he wants to be in everything. But definitely when he starts going to daycare, then I'll be back just how I was before.
No, because I imagine that
daycare means my mom here.
Say that again?
Daycare means my mom from Italy here.
That works too. And, I can imagine like, that's could be a challenge too, is that you're such a part of the brand. Both of you are the face of it. So being able to find that balance, especially as you grow a family, on how to make that work.
And we try to focus also, we're doing a lot of catering too. So, sometimes when I'm not there, I try to, go to the caterings. We've been doing a lot of catering, especially after COVID. We have portable pizza oven. So we try to expand that too right now.
Do you think the Conejo Valley is a good location to open a restaurant or launch a business?
Definitely. I being from La Crescenta, and then I lived in North Hollywood after that. When we were thinking about opening a restaurant, I really wanted to open LA because that's the place to be. That's where all the trendy restaurants are. And we decided that was in Oaks because we just felt it was a better place. And I was very happy that we decided on that because it's a small town. You have regulars that come in all the time, and that makes it so fun. And word of mouth, I really think that our success is because of the word of mouth as well. People talk in this town, and it's a good thing.
When you open in places, like Conejo Valley, you need to make sure that you care about your community and your customers, because we have a 65% of repeating customers. So we see, we know our customers, we know who they are. Sometimes we hang out.
What
they order. So versus in LA, sometimes we go there and, most of the time you don't have the great service experience, because people don't, they come and go.
Right.
You go there once a year. People come to our restaurant 3-4 times a week.
And we have customers that will call and be like, "Is so and so working tonight? I want to be in their section." It's so nice.
No way! Wow,
yeah. That's what is special. That's what we love it. Then versus in LA, people come and go. You go to these restaurants once in your lifetime, but we have a different clientele here.
It's funny.
And we love to take care of them.
Yes, no, and I hadn't thought of the idea that because it is sort of this smaller, closed community, you really have to be putting out good food and doing good things, because if you don't, then it's easy for them to also maybe not want to. But the opposite is true with you guys, and that's a huge amount of returning customers. And I love the idea that they have their favorite section or server.
Yes. We have a customer, they call late tonight, we cannot come, but we order to go.
Yeah.
It's so amazing. That's amazing. Well, speaking of customers, I have 2 questions that came in from the community that I want to ask before we get into our last little rapid fire question. So I don't know if you can answer this one, but a question was asked that what is the secret ingredient in the penne sauce?
Oh.
You got to cook it for a long time with this sauce.
Yes.
Okay, what is the sauce? Can you explain it? What kind of sauce is it?
So, do you want to explain it?
It's a
tomato reduction sauce.
Okay.
And we say because it cooks for like over 8 hours, the tomatoes. So they get a really different flavor. I don't want to say smoky because the dish isn't smoky, but it gets more of a hearty flavor when it's cooked down for that long. We add a touch of spice and milk and cream.
Okay.
But I really think it's the cooking process that makes it the way that it is. Yeah.
Fantastic. And the other question was, what is one piece of advice you'd give yourself, your younger selves, before opening the restaurant, if you could?
I would say don't take everything to heart. I think in the beginning, when we opened the restaurant, everything got to me. If we got a negative review, if a customer didn't come to work, or if somebody quit, I would really just be beside myself and I wouldn't be able to let go of it. And that caused a lot of stress for me and for him. And I couldn't sleep at night. And I think that I just needed to learn to give myself grace and know that not everything is going to be perfect sometimes. And you kind of have to roll with the punches, and you'll be a better business owner if you're not constantly stressed. And so that's something.
It's my, former business partner used to say, you need to know your numbers. It's very important because, sometimes things don't make sense, and especially in America, which is completely different than Italy. In Italy, you find a place, you open, you don't need permits, Here is like completely different, structure. And, knowing that definitely helps a lot.
Okay. Going into some rapid fire questions, what is your favorite item on the menu?
Oh, it's so hard.
I'm a little bit biased because like I tell everybody, I used to make cavatelli with my grandmother. And, cavatelli with the bolognese is something that brings me memory. A lot of memory, actually. And so it's one of my favorite dish in the menu. And I stick with that, I love it. It's a lot of memory there. I wish when I opened the restaurant, my grandmother would be here. So
I would say mine is the malfatti, the pasta with the branzino. Antonio made it for me one night when we were dating before the restaurant opened, and I said, this has to be on the menu if we open a restaurant. And so
that's the true why you married me then.
Yeah, that's why I married him.
Because of food.
Oh, that's like it's a famous like marriage pasta dish.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's the trick. What is your favorite thing to do in the Conejo Valley?
I mean, with the baby, it's a little bit hard.
That's a great question.
I mean, we like to go on a walk for sure. We like outside. There is a lot of information out there, especially when you work with a small community, the way to improve. So I take this as very seriously, and I care about every single one. And I personally call them and I want to hear what happened, because, if I can fix it, it makes me happy and, makes their experience better.
Yeah. I would say stick to your roots, know who you are, and don't let people change you. Yeah.
Boom, mic drop. That is awesome. Well, thank you both so much for all of your time. Congratulations on what you have built in the community. It sounds, like you're being authentic and true to yourself, and that's attracting, everybody in the neighborhood to really love the restaurant. So I can't wait to see what continues to transpire with the business. And thank you for joining me today.
Thank you, Christina.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
You too.
Bye. Ciao.
Make sure to subscribe to Conejo Valley Visionaries wherever you listen to podcasts so that you never miss an episode. And follow us at Conejo Valley Visionaries on Instagram. If you want to share your visionary story on the podcast, send us a DM. We are always open to guest nominations. This episode was produced by Christina Denstead and Justin K. Sloan. Conejo Valley Visionaries is edited by Justin K. Sloan and J. Sloan Productions.